All right, now we're gonna do noses. All right, so again, you're gonna look at the reference pictures that I show you, and again, I want you to do 2 noses. So let's go over a little bit of reminders of what not to do when you draw a nose. So maybe you remember from Art 1 if you had it with me. So the thing is about noses is you never want to draw the bridge of the nose, this guy right here. This is going to be created with value, okay, and shading. All right, nobody has lines on their nose right there. And then also this happening here, that's not really a great thing either. Another thing that you don't want to do is, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of how people draw noses. See this nostril thing happening here? I'm going to show you how not to draw nostrils, because there's this little piece of skin right here that everybody has, so we don't want to have this weird line connecting these things. It's also not drawn like cartoon noses. This reminds me of Phineas and Ferb and their noses, or something like that. Those are fine and dandy for cartoons, but right now we want these to look real and three-dimensional. So let's talk about the shapes that are in our nose. We kind of talked about the eyes and how they have a lot of circles. Well, so do noses. So again, I'm going to have a big circle for this area of the nose, the tip of my nose. Here's one here too, right? And then you're going to have 2 smaller circles off to the side, and see how they overlap just a tad, and they're actually up a little bit. Or sometimes they could be level with this right here. It just kind of depends on the nose that you're drawing. So it's 3 circles. I have my main circle and then my 2 side circles. So look it up here, I can prove it. So here's my main circle, and then I have a side and a side, and they overlap just a little bit. All right, and see how I can just get rid of that. Okay, so from there, you can follow this generic idea or rule of drawing in the rest of your shape of your nose. You can darken the sides of those 2 smaller circles, and then it's parentheses. So here I'm darkening. And then I'm going to create this shape here that I have here on my picture, but I'm going to create it down here. This is a little bit tricky to see. Hopefully you can see it. So I create this little area here for my nostril, and then I kind of dip down and follow that circle. And then I'm going to go up and create that other little loop. Whoops, like that. So making sure that there's see how I erase that? There's this little bit of space here. You don't want these to connect right here, because you're going to need to put value here, okay? So if I were to darken it here, I've created that little loop curve thing. Now over here, this nose, you don't see that person's nostril. So this one is just simply going to be, here's my circle, my parentheses, and then I just have a line. So sometimes you don't even have this happening, but most of the time you will. So that's why I usually show how to do this one. All right, so that's just the basic shapes of drawing the nose. So I'm going to move this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw this one down below. Okay, and so you only have to do 2 noses in your sketchbook from my reference pictures, okay? And at some point I may turn my sketchbook upside down, because I actually like to do and draw the nose upside down so that I'm looking at it just as shapes and lights and dark, not a nose, because it's tricky. You kind of want the nose to be a preconceived idea, or what you think the nose should be usually, and it kind of messes you up. So I'm going to start with my main circle, and then I have side circles, okay? If you're able to print these reference photos out, then you have the ability to actually draw on them so that you can test out that theory. So here's a really big circle, and these are really big side circles over here. and see how they're a lot lower than like that main point of my nose. So over here, I'll just do it up here. It's really, really big. And then I have big circles on the sides. And this is a really big loop and a big loop over here. So I'm trying to like copy that down below. So that one might look something like that. But I'm going to do this one. I can get that out of the way. Okay. So then I have slightly smaller side nostrils like that. And then I'm going to draw my loops. So yeah, right now I am drawing lines, but eventually here they'll go away. And then I'm going to darken my parentheses. See how that kind of pulled underneath that curve right there? So now I'm going to pull underneath a little bit and accentuate that. All right, so then what I want to do is I kind of want to get rid of this. I don't need that anymore. And then what I like to do is I like to be like, okay, remember in Art 1 or what you just did with your sphere, cube, and pyramid stuff is this is its own sphere, basically. So if I have my light source, which is happening up here, see how it goes light to dark? Think of this as its own sphere, okay? This is a little bit darker over here. This one's a little bit lighter. So you got to kind of pay attention to the subtle differences of what's happening. So if I think of this as like its own sphere, I'm just going to shade in that side, kind of like the sphere from our practice. This is a little darker over here. The darkest place usually on your nose is going to be inside those nostrils because there's really no light hitting them. So I can go ahead and darken those. And then just like the eye, I'm going to start shading around my nose because then I want to start getting rid of these outlines that I've created. And it's just like a really light coat of willow. Just a little something, because then once you have something there, then you can always take it away. That's always a good thing. If you ever have too much of something, you can always take it away with charcoal. All right, so then when I want to add like the bridge of my nose, because remember we don't want it to be two lines. We don't have lines. I'm going to go at an angle. Like if I were to actually be like touching the bridge of my nose, it's at an angle. So then that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go up it and go at an angle. And then when I blend it in with my finger, I'm also like rubbing it at an angle. It's really dark over here, so I'm going to make that a lot darker. And see how I'm still just working with willow. Like I'm just getting in my basic rough draft right now with my willow. And I just rubbed it all away. Over here, it's a little bit lighter for the bridge of my nose. So I'm going to make it a little bit lighter with my willow. I'm going to try to just do a really light coat. It's a little bit lighter there. And then I soften it with my finger. Maybe I'll come in now and kind of get rid of that stuff from the previous. Okay. So now I think I'm about ready to start coming in with my charcoal pencil. And again, I can just use my 2B for this. If you want to use your 6B, that's fine too. It's really up to you. See how this I feel like is really round, whereas compared to up here, it's kind of flatter, I guess. So I need to fix that shape. And again, I can do that with charcoal. So I'm going to just kind of delete it, take it away a little bit. And now I'm going to focus more on actually looking at that shape. Because that first shape that I had was just a drawn line. All right, so now I'm going to come in, I'm going to start shading in. So I always like to work from like dark to light. So it's going to be darker over here, so I'm going to start darkening this some more. And then I'm going to darken the bridge of my nose and see how my pencil is at an angle also. It's super tempting to go up and down like this, but I don't want to do that right now. Right now I want to go at a little bit of a diagonal, at a slant. Because really, if we were to like super break this down a little bit, you know, the sides of your nose are like this, like a little tent. And then if you like curve your finger over like this, that's like the top part of your nose. So your nose, the bridge of your nose is like comprised of like these three shapes. And then down here is crazy circles. It looks kind of weird, but that's kind of the basic breakdown of it. Okay, so now I want to darken that sphere that I had already darkened earlier with my willow. Kind of thinking of that crescent moon shape. I'm going to add a little bit of 2B over here to kind of help darken that a little bit. Before I forget, I want to definitely come over these nostrils with my charcoal pencil to really darken them. This area right here underneath the nose is a bit darker than what's happening up here. So that's what's going to create the line, I guess, even though you don't want a line. That's what's going to create the different values or the different shapes right down there. And then I want to cut this area. So I need to darken this nostril a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn it upside down. There we go. Let me see if I can get it in the whole shot. Okay, perfect. So why I work upside down is, again, like I just said, is to help me be like, not make this nose look like this preconceived idea of what I want the nose to be or what I think the nose should be. And maybe that doesn't make sense, but it helps me look at the nose as just a shape and just of light and dark, not as a nose. So over here, it's a little bit lighter, so I need to come in with my eraser and soften that highlighted area. The tip of your nose, or like right here, is going to have like a nice highlight on it. Most people struggle with the noses, but maybe now that you have like this recorded demo of mine, then you can like always go back and watch it. Maybe that'll actually like help everybody better than if you were like in class. You can always go back to it. I'm trying to like curve this some more. And I'm always constantly looking back and forth at my reference. Constantly, back and forth, back and forth. You have to train yourself to do that, because that's where you're getting all your information from. That's how you're building. That's how you're building this. Don't really want outlines. That's a tricky thing to achieve. Yeah, there's kind of this crazy outline here. Maybe I'll just reinforce this. Okay, so let's see here. So then maybe I'll darken this a little bit. So as you're doing this, you know, try working on it upside down. See if you like it better. You may not like it at first because it's new and it's weird and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so hard. But the more you do it, like the first time I did it, had to do it in college, I was like, what? What is this guy talking about? But it makes a lot of sense to do things upside down because you're just focusing on the shapes and the darks and the lights of this stuff. And there's kind of leftover charcoal down here. That's okay. It's no big deal. But my nose looks okay. It's like it's popping off the page, I feel like. So I'm kind of happy with it. A little bit here, a little bit less there. And there's my nose. Let me turn it right side up again. It looks pretty good, I guess. And then after you do one, then you would do just one more. I'm just going to make you do two. They're tricky, but and that is a charcoal nose.